This podcast discusses themes of mental health, which some people may find emotive, such as suicide or other adult-themed content. The information contained in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. All views expressed are solely those of individuals involved and do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which we have been, are now, or will be affiliated. The information is not meant to diagnose or treat any mental health condition. If you're experiencing mental health symptoms, we encourage you to contact a mental health service within your community. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please seek the relevant support and interventions by presenting to your local accident and emergency department or contacting the relevant emergency services.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Welcome to The Man Hug, the monthly men's mental health podcast. I'm Dean McShane.
I'm Dan Cooper.
I'm Ian Pearce-Hayes.
And I'm Conleth Kelly.
Each month we will discuss a different topic related to men's mental health, which will include a guest speaker who will discuss their own personal story. And each month we will also be showcasing an organisation or charity within the Merseyside area who work within mental health to help build your signposting skills. Hello, welcome to this month's edition of The Man Hug. It's our December Christmas special. And for this month, we're going to be focusing on memories. So that's going to be our theme. And we're going to be linking that with music as well. So a bit later on, our own sound guy, Nat, is going to be telling us all about the amazing things that Merseyside dementia-friendly radio station actually do. And we'll be interviewing Nat as well, a little bit about his own playlist for life. Our first guest, we're really honoured to be joined by Brian Nash, Nasher from Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Man Hug.
Well, I feel hugged.
He's had a few hugs already. Yeah. But we're really honoured to have Brian with us because probably not a lot of people know that outside his rock and roll world of his music with Frankie Goes to Hollywood and his solo, he actually works as a celebrant as well. And we've been having a chat about it before, about some of the people that Brian's actually been working with in terms of funerals and celebrating people's lives. So I think before we move on to your own soundtrack to your life, if we have a little chat about the role of the celebrant and what it means to yourself.
Yeah, I guess the celebrant is the person. If you don't want a vicar or a priest, then you get someone like me, and I turn up and I speak to you and try to get what you want out of that ceremony. And you have all kinds of different things going on, pipers, people singing, people doing their own tributes and stuff. So I just basically cater to that. It was funny, like when I started doing it, people thought I was going around playing The Power of Love at funerals, and I was saying to Diggsy, I've done like 150, and he was going like, that many people want to play that. I'm not there playing the guitar. I'm there doing the thing. Yeah.
So you run the service then basically and tell people stories.
I'm employed by the funeral director, and I go to see the family, and it's basically have a recording, have a chat for about an hour, and then go home and make notes off that and write the eulogy about the person who's passed.
Amazing. One of the things we were talking about is your Instagram page, where you show a flower from each funeral, but then you put a really lovely story about that person's life, and obviously it's from the eulogy and from people's own stories. So is there any that stick out with you that have been...
There's the two examples that I always give. I was doing a funeral during COVID. The person didn't die from COVID. His name was Sammy, and he'd lived down south, and he was at he'd been involved in horse training and all that. So I'm dealing with his niece Carol and her sister Sandra. and I said, like, are you going to do these tributes? And they said, yeah. And Carol said, well, I'm going to speak, and then our Sandra's going to speak, and then my mum wants to speak. And I said, well, she can just get up after Sandra. She said, you can't get up because she's in a wheelchair, Brian. And I went, well, it's okay, I'll make sure she's at the front. So Carol does her bit, brilliant. Sandra does her bit. Maureen, believe you want to say something, and Maureen's sitting there, and she pulls her mask down, and this is word for word what she said. Sammy, lad, I'm not half going to miss you, lad. I've got so many lovely memories from when we were kids, and our mum would keep all the bits of veg, and you'd go running down the garden to give them to your little rabbit Flopsy. And one morning you got up and the cage was open, and Flopsy was gone, and you thought he'd escaped, but he hadn't. We'd ate him. And when we told you, you took it really well. And I'm going like, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but Uncle Frank's next. And Uncle Frank looks like Paulie Walnuts in The Sopranos. And he puts his hand in his pocket and he pulls out a William Hill betting slip and he opens it like that and he goes, said, Sammy, really going to miss you. Night and God bless. And I said afterwards, like, it could have been a treble.
Yeah.
So that, from the hilarity of that to dealing with a guy who lost his dad through COVID, and he said, I said to him, write a tribute, and he said, I don't know what to write. And I'd say to him what I say to everyone: if you can put what's in your heart on the page, then you can't be wrong. So he sends me this thing, and it's like, it's the first 2 paragraphs about where his dad was born and where he went to work and blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to, well, who was my dad to me? And he said, every day my dad came in from work and he'd come through the door and he'd walk down our long hall and I'd be waiting at the end of the hall for him, and he'd pick me up and give me a hug in his big overcoat. And he smelt like a man who'd done a day's work. And in the winter, that overcoat was my duvet, and I slept as though he had his arms around me. Wow. And he said, is that any good? And I said, mate, Morgan Freeman should be reading this, not me. I said, it's absolutely stunning. It's stunning. It's exactly what you want to read when you encourage people to do that. Yeah. But no, some amazing things.
Unbelievable. Funny. And we've spoken on this podcast quite a few times about grief and bereavement, haven't we? And especially, how impactful it can be on men who don't share their emotions. But for you, organising this and being part of that service, how honoured do you feel, and how much do you get from it yourself?
But it's about the grief side of it. It's not my grief, so I'm not there to be upset. It's my job is to hold their hand, and that's the best thing about it, especially when I've done them for friends. I go, it's all right. I've done loads of these now. It's okay. It's going to be great. And I always think that if you're lucky, you'll only ever have to do one funeral in your life, and that'll be your surviving parent. So it's not natural territory for people, but I don't get upset, but I've kind of learned now that if people are upset, I don't look at them. The family who are usually the most upset are right in front of me, so kind of look beyond them into the room, because if you see people getting upset, especially kids, it can set you off. Like,
we were talking as well about Pauline, one of the ones that you'd recently spoke about. So on your Instagram, you talk about someone's life and their stories, and Pauline was one which made me laugh, and I ran in to tell Conleth about it one day actually, because she spoke in Paulinisms.
Yeah, well, I didn't. Her son got up and gave a couple of them, and she was a fanatical Evertonian, as was her son, and her son was living in Belfast and said, Mum, I'm just ringing up to see how you are. Don't tell me the Everton score. There's only 5 minutes left. I'm taping it. And she said, I can't tell you the score. There's been no goals. And that was one of her Paulinisms. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's a great thing, though, isn't it? Just to have, laughter at funerals with these amazing moments and people. But as well, what you were saying earlier about the sisters who manned the guns in the docks, there's so much more behind someone's life and these stories,
Yeah. I'm never... I never cease to be blown away by the stuff that people tell you, and real legendary people, and again, funny stories. I was talking to my mate about someone who was in Speak, who's been a real activist in the community, and as was her husband, and I was saying, he said, "Oh, I knew her. Yeah, we've got her name on the wall in our place." And I said, did you know she was arrested? I said, what did she get arrested for? She said, she hit Ken Zod with a leg of lamb. It come down to open up a supermarket. And he said, everyone in Speak spends the money on ale, ciggies and bingo. And she's gone, I'm not having that. And clumped him with a leg of lamb and got arrested.
Oh, it's brilliant. And I think that's one of the things, following these stories, it does give a lot of brightness, and especially, these hilarious moments which family members are often talking about. For yourself this year, obviously it's been a big year with Eurovision and performing there. Well, how are you looking back on the year?
Well, I've just never been interested in doing anything related to any of that. And so when it happened really late, I'm talking like 3 weeks before. So like some guys gone, wouldn't it be great to have Frankie playing Welcome to the Pleasure Dome to open this thing? Yeah. And he sends this guy from the record label sends it through to me. He's going, hi Johnny, yeah, no thanks, see ya. and then a couple of days later, Peds rang me up, and I speak to Ped quite a bit, and he said, so you're out. This is the way he talks. So you're out. And I went, yeah. He went, defo. And I went, why? And he said, because I was just speaking to Mark, and Mark fancies doing it. And I said, so you do? And I went, all right, then if you're doing it, then I'll do it. And it was kind of like it became a thing, because Liverpool had to win Eurovision. I think it became a thing to do for Liverpool, and that it was bigger than any disputes that any of us had. But for me, I think Mark O'Toole summed it up best when he said, I've come to cut the heads off the monster. And it was great. The best thing about it being, from the moment I was committed to it, I organised the night that night. I think we were done filming by 10 o'clock, and we all went to the Bridewell, which is where the bands was formed. And I got a load of people who were all from our collective past, who nobody would have seen for years. Wow. So, and we were in there till late. Yeah. Might be some busies listening.
Locking the police station.
Yeah, but it was a locking in the police station, exactly. And that was, and I think the testament to how good that evening was, of the last 10 people to leave the building, 4 of them were me, Mark, Ped and Paul. And seeing Julie Muscatelli from the Leather Pets, who I haven't seen in 40 years, was great. And yeah, that part of it was great. The rest of it, the stress leading up to it, dropped me out. And I can imagine that, like, you know, and of course, if you start looking at Dawn, should we get back together and do that thing? It was like, nah. I had psoriasis when I was like in my 20s, and in the 2 weeks prior to Eurovision, I had 2 come up on my hands, and I went, that's Frankie, and this one here. And it's like, I just don't need that.
Yeah. And you've done a lot of solo stuff, haven't you, since? So I suppose you're organising yourself.
I'm kind of the only one who's been performing right throughout that time, and so why would I want to? And also, I'm in the queue. Yeah. I don't want to spend any part of what time I've got left doing something like that just for the money. Because that's all it is. That's it's someone going, here, I'll do this. And you know, if that's not enough, the only way that money goes up is if you charge people more for the tickets. So I mean, there ain't enough money in the world for me to do that. It's too much aggravation.
Well, good on you, because we love your solo work anyway.
No, what was funny, when Paul Rutherford got in touch with me when some of these offers started coming in and saying, like, is anyone interested in doing any of this? Because I am. And I just, before I replied, I went, I bet you are. You're turning up and going hoo-ha and shaking your bum. You're not going to be in the rehearsal room for 5 weeks, you know, working out what we're going to play. And no. No, if they want to do it, I don't think they will. I don't think... We're all in different parts of the world. Paul's in New Zealand, Mark's in Florida. Ped's, I'm up here, Ped and Holly down in London. Just the logistics of getting something together and getting everybody to sing from the same hymn sheet. It's just got...
Too much stress.
We were thinking of having a Man Hug festival next year. You could headline that if you really... That was the one-off.
Speak to my agent, who doesn't exist.
Well, the last thing I want to mention on Eurovision, the charity I've been very closely attached to for years is called Playlist for Life. And this year they turned 10, and it's a dementia-based charity which has one aim, and their aim is that anyone living with dementia has their own personalised playlist. And I was invited to their 10th birthday party this year in Glasgow, so I went up, and obviously they were our competitors for Eurovision, so they weren't best happy that Liverpool got it, and I know they'll be listening to this one. So the next thing that we want to do is your own soundtrack, really. It's the soundtrack to your life. And, I know I mentioned this to you, Brian, about, it'd be really great to have someone like yourself come on and talk about your soundtrack, because this is something that we're really passionate about, and especially spreading the word. And I think a bit later on we're going to talk a little bit more around Playlist for Life as a charity. But this is going to be your kind of soundtrack to your life. I don't know if we'll get sued for saying Desert Island Discs, but we'll throw it in anyway. But it's sort of that soundtrack to your life that's attached to those key memories, really. So the first one is all about a song that reminds you of your youth. And what did you go for that one?
Well, it was "God Save the Queen" by the Pistols, because it was such a seismic moment, and it's sonically, it was miles ahead of loads of other punk records, because they had Chris Thomas producing it, who is a brilliant producer and has made brilliant records. Whereas you think like the Clash's first album had their live sound guy doing it, who'd probably never been in a studio in his life, So sonically, it was incredible, and I still love it now. It's still when you hear it, it's like it's trying to break out of the speakers. Yeah. And also that whole punk thing, without God Save the Queen, or prior to that, without David Bowie and without God Save the Queen, do I end up being in a band? Probably not. But punk made it seem achievable, and then going to Eric's and seeing seeing Magazine as close as I am to you, and like, wow. And The Cure, I remember seeing The Cure, and they just looked like three grubby little students, but they were amazing, loads of energy, and it made that seem like, imagine yourself as being a member of Slade or Genesis is too far fetched, but like, no, these guys are doing it. Yeah.
So it gave you some hope that you could do it in that sense.
Yeah, because that was the whole DIY ethic of punk. That's not to say that's what the Pistols had with God Save the Queen, because they had the backing of Virgin, who were one of the forerunners of the punk stuff. The rest of them were all kind of in the wake of that and snatching up independence for distribution. Like,
so what was going on in your life during that time when you first heard God Save the Queen? What were you doing?
Well, in 1977, I'd have been 14. Yeah. So. Probably bad hair, worst teeth, and it's exciting, isn't it? Yeah. It's those next from the ages of like 16 to 18 is when it really kicks in, when you're trying to when the hormones are raging. It's all about girls, and then trying to get into pubs, and how Liverpool was at that time. And I know that we all kind of tend to look at the past in rose-tinted spectacles, like. The guys who I do it now go, I was boss in the 80s. No, it wasn't. It was crap. There was nowhere. There was we had about 3 pubs, and like compared to now, I live in town, so I'm 20 minutes walk from 20 restaurants serving fantastic food, untold brilliant pubs. But it was music and the football were a means out of the ghetto, and. The music in Liverpool at that time was unbelievable, smashing it, and that carried on to the point where we're in Frankie doing Top of the Pops, and it's being introduced by Janice Long and John Peel, and the Bunnymen are on, and Wiley's on, and it's just like this big Scouse invasion of the BBC, and I think that's why people look back on the 80s and that time in Liverpool fondly. They tend to neglect talking about the riots and, the heroin epidemic and the joblessness and all of those other things. But that's all our collective, selective memory, innit? It's like, don't worry about that.
As long as the music and football was good.
And the music was great, and the football was exceptional. It was, fantastic times.
It goes on to our next one then. Which song takes you back to a special memory in your life? It's quite personal.
Well, I think I could have picked one or two here. One, but when you first start getting into music and you haven't got any records, and we didn't really have the radio on in the house, but my dad we had a radiogram, and my dad was a jazz head, so we used to play jazz, and he'd be going like, listen to this. I'm just like, nah, and I'm going, have you heard Ultravox? But when I was a kid, the only records that were in there that that had any singing was Ella Fitzgerald sings Cole Porter, which was stunning record, and Miss Otis Regrets is one of my favourite tunes. But Bridge Over Troubled Water as an album was like the first thing that I started listening to, and I'd be sitting there on the floor next to the thing with headphones on and listening to that record, and the atmosphere of the record and how it sounds, you know, the big reverb clash on the boxer, and it turned me into an echo freak. Everything, the only thing that improves something with echo on it is more echo and more reverb. And there's a lot of people who would refer to the same thing about with Heartbreak Hotel, like Keith Richards going, it wasn't what it was, the atmosphere of the record, and that's what comes across. It sounds like, you know, it sounds like them just doing their thing, and just great tunes, and, you know, not conventional instrumentation either. You know, some stuff with no drums, some stuff with like different types of percussion and that.
Yeah, it's the harmonies as well, honest.
Yeah.
So ghostly.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, the next one then. So, are there any nursery rhymes or songs from a children's TV that you loved?
I went for the Banana Splits.
Classic.
Because it was Saturday morning TV. You know, it was, everyone got it. What was it? Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah.
The Flashing Blade. In fact, I'm changing that. It's the Flashing Blade.
Okay, we've had a change. The
Flashing Blade. You've got to fight for what you want. Yeah, I want to be one of those guys on the horses with like the long curly hair and a big sword. The Flashing Blade. Brilliant. Saturday morning TV.
Yeah.
That's like a nostalgic overcoat. We all remember that, only, you know.
Didn't someone else pick the Banana Splits as well? Yeah,
I'm
definitely having the Flashing Blade then.
I also loved it because the Dickies covered it as well.
Yeah.
Which I just think was a great version, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That punky
Punky
DIY
version.
bit was they did a great
My one
version.
was,
Speeded up, but it's great. Yeah.
Hold on to it.
Champion the Wonder Horse.
So the next one is a song which reminds you of your hometown, and already, you know, you spoke about Eric's and you spoke about a lot of the bands that you'd grew up watching, but what's your song that reminds you of your hometown?
Well, it's given that I'm a celebrant, I hear this at least once every 4 funerals. You'll Never Walk Alone.
Yeah.
And for our blue brethren who reckon the city's all blue, you're just miles off it. Because like if I looked at the music for the funerals that I do, You'll Never Walk Alone is light years ahead of Zed Cars.
Yeah.
It really is. So that's a myth.
Yeah.
But it's still good. It's still good when you listen to it now, and if it's, I think You'll Never Walk Alone belongs to the city of Liverpool rather than Liverpool Football Club, because it goes back to that. I only found this out the other week that before they started doing that at Anfield, they used to play the top 10, and when it was number 1, they played it. And everyone started singing it. And then when it started going down the charts, there was like, no, we want to have that back. And that's how it kind of started. And it goes back to that time when they're all on all the cops singing Anyone Who Had a Heart and all that. Yeah, they wouldn't be singing any silly songs now, would they? Yeah, sorry.
I think Bill Shankly said as well, because of Carousel. He said he was always a big fan of it as well, wasn't he, from in the musical as well. Next one then is... think of a person who's important to you and what song reminds you of them. And this is always a good one, because especially, you know, we talk about this memory bump of being aged 10 to 30. So what's the song and who's the person?
It's I Feel Loved by Donna Summer, but particularly the Patrick Cowley remix, which is 15 minutes long. Yeah. And this is kind of, well, I don't know, my life has been a life of sliding doors, and there is no more a bigger sliding door than this. Want to talk about this, so if you'll indulge me for a minute. So my mate, when I was a kid, started getting into heroin, and he was saying, and it was not something that appealed to me, and he was said, I'm going around to see this geezer who's been getting the gear off, and he's going to shoot me up, and if you want to come, he'll shoot you up as well. And it was like, my mate was like a very persuasive guy, and I went, I don't really fancy that. So I put distance between, and I've got to go somewhere where he's not going to find me. I can't stay in the house. So I went into town on a Sunday night on my own, and I went to Cagney's, because I knew my mate Steve Proctor was DJing there. So I thought, at worst, I'll be there and I can just go and hang out with him. There might be someone else who I knew. And I'd seen me missus, or I'd met me missus before, but I'd never really spoken to her. And I Feel Love come on, and it was Patrick Cowley, who was a gay New Yorker, had done this 15-minute remix of it. And it came on, and I said to me, I was talking to my missus, who was going to be my future wife, Claire, and said, we got to get up and we got to dance to this from the start to finish, because Patrick Cowley died that day.
Oh, wow.
As a tribute to him. So I always think of it, and it's kind of like seen as one of those seminal remix things, although it never broke out of the gay community, really. But yeah, it's a belter.
Yeah.
About 50. I don't even know if it's on Spotify. I would imagine it is. The Patrick Cowley remix of
That's
I Feel
amazing.
Love.
So it takes you back to that time, and
Yeah, being in Cagney's and avoiding my mate, who went down that rabbit hole, and that was the end of him, and destroyed his life. Had incredibly adverse effects on the lives of his family. Drastically bad. And he passed away this year, and I did his funeral, and it was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be there, but it was like, well, you know what, I've got to be there for his family, because his family, they're all good people.
Yeah.
And sad times.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of many who went down that road and never come back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Brilliant. Next one we've got is which song always gets you on the dance floor? And you've just danced for 15 minutes, so this might be a good one.
Oh, do you know what? It's I would say Into the Groove by Madonna, because it's like when I've done DJing stuff, I always play it because it always gets people on the dance floor. But in recent years, I don't listen to music anymore. I listen to the Sons of Mowgli album. I feel very privileged. Feel very privileged.
That's been set up, that one.
No,
are you reading that now?
all of my options are Sons of Mowgli, you know.
It was, but I love perfect pop music, and it's things like Teenage Dream by Katy Perry, Call the Shots by Girls Aloud. It's like that pumping but dead poppy dance music, and the one I've just been listening to over and over, because I Shazammed it in Home Bargain. We play Home Bargain. Whoever does the Home Bargain playlist, respect. No, it's Scouse. It's got loads of Scouse stuff on it. Yeah. But I'm walking through it and I went, I've heard this tune before, I need to find out who it is. And as soon as I pressed the button, it bounced back, and it was Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift. And it was like the melody and the way it's a masterclass in, these are the words I want to say, and I've got to get a melody to make it fit this thing, because the words are the important thing. So I love that kind of pop stuff and polished pop, because we all like a good tune and a good melody. Yeah. But I think my days of dancing are over. I mean, I'm talking like I could be 10 pints of Guinness in, and it'd be reluctant. But Black Eyed Peas tonight's going to be a good night. I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, a bit of Katy Perry.
So there you go. Yeah, had it here first. Nash loves the pop bangers. So the next one's on to holidays then. So which song reminds you of your favourite holiday and why?
Well, it's again, I'm not one who'd be listening to music on holiday, apart from like back in the days of having Walkmans. But the one I picked, again, this goes back to perfectly crafted pop music, is Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, because when we were touring America in 1985, they were smashing it. That song's from The Big Chair, so it was that Shout with the big radio tunes. So everywhere you went, it was like every MTV channel. Every time you go into a hotel and put the telly on, and MTV would come on, it'd be on, or you'd be in a taxi somewhere and it'd be on the radio. And it's such a brilliant record as well, and I could talk you through why it's so brilliant. I mean, just beginning with the two guitar solos, which are both very different, but both brilliant and played by different guys. And I met the guy, Alan Taylor, played the second one, and I knew he'd played on that record, and I said to him, it was at a funeral actually, and I said to him, yeah, everybody wants to rule the world. Which one was you? Were you first or second? And he said second. And I went, you know what? I thought so. Because you're like a guitar player. Roland's not. Roland plays guitar, but he's not a lead guitarist. But that's not to say the solo is brilliant. It counters against the rhythm. But the second guitar solo goes, yeah, I'm in. Yeah. When do you want me to open the door? Here. Yeah. But yeah, such a great record.
Yeah. I know you've always been sort of quite vocal about Tears for Fears, haven't you? Being a great band.
No, they are. I mean, they care about it. And I think some of the stuff that the album with Sowing the Seeds of Love on and Woman in Chains, the fantastic sounds and records, they really are oral works of art. Yeah. But, you know, people just go, you know, who don't get that, go, oh, it's a bit pompous. And go, no, it's not pompous. It's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes you back to that memory of touring in America. And so,
yeah, because it's very filmic. You know, in the video, it's like the two black guys dancing at the gas station. Yeah. So it is like, it ties itself into that romantic thing of going across America, you know, looking out the window at all these vibey towns, when in fact the reality is checking in at airports late with a hangover. Yeah. Yeah, you know, can't get anywhere.
God. Were they sort of good memories then when you were touring back then?
Yeah, I've got a plan next year. November next year, it's going to be 40 years since we toured, did our first dates there. And I put a note up on the Frankie Facebook page and the Twitter thing to say who was at these gigs, and there was about 16 or 17 gigs. And people commenting about them and blah, blah, blah. So the idea is, after Christmas, to get in touch with these people and say, all right, I came to Chicago, you know, Phoenix, whatever, and I never got to see any of the city. So here's the deal. I'll come to your city, you take me down to your city and show me what it's all about, and I'll come and play in your house. and film it and have a little bit of a, I don't know, road trip or something like that. Yeah. It sounds like a good idea.
It does, yeah. It's brilliant. Wow, amazing. And on to the next one. So we've had childhood TV shows, but this one's, are there any TV shows with theme tunes that you always remember?
Yeah, Doctor Who, because it's, again, it's not traditional instruments and it's the sound of it. And it was, it's sequences before people knew what sequences were. You know, these were boffins making this, you know. Yeah. And also, it was such a massive, you know, people forget, people these days, you know, Doctor Who, there's millions of people watching it because there's only 3 channels at the time. So there's nothing else. The other thing, I always remember what was on the other side was Garrison's Grillers. Used to be on ITV when that was on. And I mean, it's Doctor Who stood the test of time, hasn't it?
And anyone who follows you on Twitter will know your favourite Doctor Who.
Oh, it's well, I would have to say Pertwee, but I mean Tom Baker's boss. Yeah. But every Scouser goes for Tom Baker, and I was back in the 80s. I was friends with John Pertwee's daughter, Darielle, and so I'm going to go for John Pertwee because he was And he was Wurzel Gummidge as well.
There you go.
Took me back to my TV theme tune. Yeah. And the last one we're going to finish on then. So concerts you've been to, which tunes remind you of the best live music event you've attended? What have we got for that?
Oh God, there's so many. But a band from Duluth, Minnesota called Low, who were a 3-piece. Mimi Parker and Alan Sparhawk, and their music is just beautiful. And I've followed them from when they were playing to 50 people in Dingwalls in Camden, right up to seeing the last time at the Barbican. So I must have seen them 20 odd times. And when that album with Murderer came out, they played at the Union Chapel in Islington for 4 nights, and I went to 2 of the nights on my own and bootlegged them. And I say Mimi's died, and it's, even though it's Mimi not singing this, she was just amazing. But it's a lot of it tied to the live music, riff raff, seeing AC/DC, the Empire in 1979. 3 months later, Bon Scott was dead, and I've seen AC/DC loads of times since. Loved AC/DC so much, me and Ped, that all the people who used to do AC/DC's crew and PA all ended up doing Frankie. So that's why our sounds was brilliant and our lights were brilliant, because we had the people who do the brilliant stuff. Endorphin Machine by the New Power Generation. Prince has changed his name and written something on his face. And I went to see him at Wembley Arena. And again, no familiar tunes, but just stunning. An amazing songwriter. The Scientists, Coldplay, really late shout. I got up Saturday morning, they played at the Emirates on Friday night. And I looked on YouTube and I seen a clip of them playing Charlie Brown at the Emirates when they had the light up wristbands. So I finished my beans on toast and said to me, mate, you fancy going to see Coldplay? Ended up getting 2 tickets down there off a Scouser from Norris Green, from where I'm from. Yeah, keep me number, lads, I get all the footy and that. And seeing Coldplay in that environment, and I know Coldplay get a lot of stick, but I cried when he played The Scientist and Fix You and Yellow and Charlie Brown. It was emotional, and as I always said to the Gooners, it's the most people they'll ever have singing in the ground. And it was kids and older people as well. Good mix. And the Reillys, I've seen the Reillys loads of times. I will go and see. There are very few people who make me feel like a fan, and the Real People are one of those. And I will go and see the Real People, and I will stand close to the front, and I will sing every single word. But
I think I've seen the Real People. The very last concert, the Irish Centre before it closed down, was the Real People, and it was a few days after the Hillsborough concert at Anfield, and everyone from Liverpool bands was there watching them, you know what I mean? It was who's who of everyone watching them.
We probably have about 200 on the guest list.
That's what I mean, yeah.
I just buy a ticket now. I can't be bothered going in there. You sort me out. You turn up. There's less people in the queue with tickets than there are waiting for the Gezi.
Oh, well, that's amazing. I mean, what we're going to do, we're going to create your playlist and we're going to put it on Spotify so that people can check out the songs. Tonight's an important night. We had Timo from the Florrie, not last month, the month before. Come on to tell us about the St George's Hall gig tonight. So what can you tell us about that?
I remember meeting the T Street bands when they had the Liverpool Music Awards. Like that never happened again years ago. And I met the lads from the T Street band there. I think me and Pez actually gave them their award for the best new band or something. And so every time they come down to London, I'd go and see them play, and just a bit of Scouse love, like when you're playing somewhere in Hoxton or whatever. And so I've known all the lads since then. And when Timo put the thing up about the guitar group, I shared it for him. That's boss. His original post was like, I'm not a guitar player, but if anyone, or a guitar teacher, but if anyone wants to learn a few chords and that. And apparently, was it Anne at the Florrie, and the first 2 weeks no one turns up. So he's just turned up there on his own, and it's gone from this thing. So prior to COVID, they did something at phase 2, is it, or phase 1? And they had, like, the youngest was 7, who was Lee Schmidt out of T Street band's lad, to a fella who was in his 70s, and I just turn up and play with everybody else. It's just nice to be part of that. So then I did a thing at the Florrie, and then I did the last thing there. So I said he was going to do this one for Christmas, so I got in touch with him and I said, do you fancy doing The Power of Love? And he said, it's typical Timo. He said, yeah, I was going to ask you, but I thought you'd have binned me off. And I went, I wouldn't have binned you off, man. But I love the idea of the Florrie, and I love that inclusivity and about, you're turning up at St George's Hall and you can only play 3 chords, and you do that thing. But it's about the best thing about the guitar group is the greatest lesson anyone can have about music. It's not a competition, and it's about the collective, and it's about playing together. Nobody learns to play a musical instrument to play on their own. It's about playing with other people, and that is a good thing. And every time I go down there to the Florrie, like, it just ends up sitting next to someone and just going, all right, yeah. And I don't really know what that feels like from their point of view, because I've got no pretensions about myself. I'm just there playing the guitar with you. It's only 4 chords, and so I get that might freak people out a bit, or they're buzzing about it, but I can't see it from their point of view. So we're going to do it, and it's going to be a vibe.
Yeah, so that's the night, isn't it? St. Joe's Hall. We're all going along to that. A couple of us are playing the guitar. And then tomorrow night, we're in District as well. And so what's going on in District tomorrow night?
It's a thing for Medical Aid for Palestine. My friend Nikki Branch, who I've known about 10 years now, she's been involved with Medical Aid for Palestine and been out there and ridden a bike over there and raised funds for them. And actually, for a large part of this year, we've been, myself and Nikki and Ian Prowse and Sheila have been in like a little group about going to Palestine. Because it's not something that I've been involved in the last couple of years. It's something I've been fucking, excuse my language, been tweeting about for a good few years. And she asked me, and it was like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. But it's like I just hope it's good. So I went to see Diggsy yesterday, and Diggsy's doing it, and I said, we should do something together because I'm sick of playing on my own. Yeah. And it brings in jeopardy. Yeah. That's what I want to do. All of this is about jeopardy. It's like, do you want to jump off a cliff with me? Come on. let's do a jump off the cliff.
It looked an amazing night. We've had Malik Al Nasser as one of our guests, and he's going to do some poetry, and obviously some Gil Scott Heron poetry as well. And we had Mel Bowen on the podcast, who's also playing as well, and Sheila Coleman as well, who'll be talking as one of our guests in January as well, which we're really chuffed with. So that's why we're going along tomorrow. Support you all, and support the cause as well. It sounds like an amazing event, and we're all.
Well, I wouldn't really want to get into the politics or any of this, but I just had something recently with a friend of mine who's Jewish, who lives in America, and. She contacted me over something that I tweeted, and we had this little exchange, and really at the end of it, it's hard to get people's feelings in what they've written about their text, and stuff can be misinterpreted. And she was saying about like at the end of it, by the time I'd read these messages, it was like this is my friend, and she's frightened. She's frightened about this kind of thing, and she's a lawyer, and she is so pro-Palestinian, and which is not a comfortable place to be if you're Jewish and in America at the moment. But I think we've all got to do our bit, and I don't know, man. I don't know where this ends, but it's I was reminded of a mate of mine. His mum said when Israel moved in there, she said that won't end well, and this is what we're seeing at the moment, is this end game, and the fact that the world and the world's press is just looking the other way is horrific. And you know what people will say to us, like the messages and the questions that we would have put back to people in the Holocaust, the people who were living next to the concentration camps and stuff like that. Well, people are going to ask those same questions of us, and I'm going to make my voice heard because I'm a man of peace. Yeah.
Brilliant, and I think that's a fabulous way to finish our segment. So thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for doing your soundtrack to your life. And
it was all a bit last minute.
It's brilliant.
It'll be out of date by tomorrow. It says, it should have been Life on Mars. Life on Mars was the one.
We can always add something to it. Well, once again, thanks so much for coming on, Brian.
It's an absolute pleasure, and good luck with it. And let me know when it's all happening, and I'll share my nonsense with the world. Amazing. And keep enjoying the Celebrant, the Instagram stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, for anyone who wants to follow Nash's work on Instagram, it's Nasher the Celebrant on there. So amazing stories. So please do that as well. But once again, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, you come on and admire my wide selection of ties.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Okay, it's this part of the podcast now where us, the four hosts, will have a little chat on about the theme. And this month we've gone for the theme of memories. And as Nasher there gave us the soundtrack to his life, I thought it'd be a really good chance to shine a light on Playlist for Life. And Playlists for Life are a charity that just have one mission, and they believe that every person living with dementia should have the soundtrack to their life. And it's all about personalised, meaningful music. Now, me as a mental health nurse, and I remember as a mental health student nurse in particular, going into dementia day centres and dementia nursing homes, where everyone would be sat in a lounge. They would have Vera Lynn on, or Doris Day, or Johnny Cash, or Patsy Cline. And if you hated that music, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of it, are you? So for me, I think it's such an important thing, and for someone who loves music so much, who has so many memories attached to songs, it was one of the things that really attracted me to Playlist for Life. And I've been a volunteer with them for a long time now, and anyone who will listen to me, I will come to you and I will talk about the benefits of personalised music. And I've got a few journal articles out there as well that sort of promote the benefits of it. And for me, the big things that we see, especially for people living with dementia, if you have a song that puts you into a place of familiarity, so it takes you back to somewhere, a nice time, what we do see is that reduction in agitation, the reduction in the stress. And what we know comes with the reduction in agitation and the stress is that you're more likely to eat, you're more likely to remember to go to the bathroom, you're less likely to fall over. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it is because of the overprescribing of the wrong medication for people with dementia, in particular antipsychotic medication, which is often prescribed just to, reduce agitation, when we know that medication does that and it won't put them at a risk of falls and everything else. So, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for it. I think it's one of the best things. It's simple to do. And if you want any of the resources, if you have a relative who lives with dementia, or a friend or a neighbour or family member, anyone, go to playlistforlife.org.uk, and all of the free resources are on there to help you find the soundtrack to someone's life. And you can start utilising that playlist. You can play songs however someone likes to listen to them. Whether it's through vinyl records or if they've got a load of old cassettes or CDs. It's all unique and personalised to that person. A lot of us now use the digital playlists. I create them all of the time on streaming platforms. And I've been working with a lot of people within the city region to create their soundtracks as well. So myself and students will go out to places like the Palm House in Sefton Park, and we've gone out to the Liverpool Central Library, Liverpool Museums. We go anywhere where we can help people to create their soundtrack, and often we will do it through either YouTube, so we'll collate videos for people, or we'll use things like Spotify, like streaming platforms. So with our hosts today, I thought, well, for our little Christmas special, let's bring up some of our own memories associated to songs. And Ian's got his Christmas hat on here, which is just...
it's on his head.
It's on his head, yeah. It's a thing of beauty. So I think what we'll start off with first, let's go back to our youth, boys. So what we always say with personalised music for people living with dementia, the memory bump, if you can get people to think about songs that were special in their life between the age of 10 to 30, they're more likely to remember them the further that dementia progresses. So for us, with our memory bump, let's think about a song that reminds you of your youth. So for me, I'll kick us off. There's quite a few I could choose because I was a big festival goer, and I still go to an awful lot of concerts. But during this period of my youth, I went to a lot of festivals, and one memory that's really sticks out for me was I went to V98 in Leeds, and it was an amazing lineup. But there was one artist that I didn't really know too much about, but it still sticks out as being an amazing memory for me because of the people I was with. There was family members and there was friends, and it was Iggy Pop. And he came to the stage semi-naked, and he did burst out "Lust for Life," and the crowd just went absolutely crazy, and everyone embraced, and it was just an incredible moment. And every time I hear that song, it takes me back to being in Leeds in August on a very hot day and very dusty crowd. But that embrace and that emotion was just absolutely priceless. So for me, it's Iggy Pop and "Lust for Life." That reminds me of my youth. Ian, have you got one that reminds you of your youth?
Interestingly, I think there was a lot of things that Graham, when he talked about the importance of music for him, that sort of resonated with me. Because when we were looking about, all of that, the soundtracks, a lot of stuff from when I was actually very, very young, when I was in my home and stuff like that. But for me, what resonated from what Graham said was that whole thing of that DIY. And for me, in terms of like the punk and that new wave, and it was that ability, and all of us looking in terms around the room of all being in bands, and I think it was that break from that, I guess, not just rock music, but the classical music, and that you really had to be talented in terms of musicianship. So for me, it's not that the people weren't talented, and we're still playing their music. Some of these bands are still playing, so they are talented. But it was a break from that you had to have so many hours playing on a cello, or so many hours playing on guitar, piano, whatever it was. So for me, it was things like. What a Waste by Ian Dury was a real. I just loved the lyrics from that as well. There was that, there was that snarliness about it as well that really sort of resonated with me. So I think it would be What a Waste by Ian Dury in terms of that whole "this is for me," and he was that person from a pub rock band to and he also had a disability. There was all of that. So for me, that felt really important in terms of where that music was going, and What a Waste really brings that back for me, because there's certainly for the lyrics, and it's just what a tune as well. So it's for me that's one that resonates with me.
Nice.
Great choice. Conleth, have you got a track that reminds you of your youth?
Yeah, like everybody, we've got so many, and it's trying to home down on. It's like this, as you said, Desert Island Disc, copyright, or whatever. Look at those things. But for me, one of the ones in particular, very difficult to pick out a jam song in particular that you think, this is the one that means the most to me. But at the time, like whenever you turn 14 or something like that, whatever, you have this band who are just like, really in your face and things like this, whatever, it meant so much, and it just went on from there. But whenever, by the time I was 16, I was expelled from Christian Brothers. Things weren't going right for me. Things, those issues, as we just said there, you could take that wrong path. Mm-hmm. And it was, I'd say, probably from one of the best jam albums, Setting Suns, Burning Sky in particular, that song. What was the line? You're just a dreamer and you don't realise, and the sooner you do will be the better for you. Getting a bit choked up saying it. Mm. And it was just saying, oh shit, it's all, it's me. Things get whatever, that kind of thing. And sometimes you got to realise, life is hard, things have got whatever, but sometimes for me it was that realisation, I need to get my finger out of my eyes. So that's me. Brilliant, that's a great choice, an amazing song as well. Dan, what reminds you of your youth?
I've toiled with this. I've actually just changed it. So I was going to go for What Becomes the Broken Hearted by Jimmy Ruffin, because I listened to that song a lot as a teenager on vinyl on my little record player, but I'm not doing that now. And there was also Imagine by John Lennon and White Shade of Pale by Procol Harum, because they were the first two songs I remember as a 3-year-old. Anyway, the song I've chosen, and Dean's stories just made me change this, and I've got it as one of the other options, but it's the Riverboat song by Ocean Colour Scene. And the story behind this is it was the year 2000, and I just failed my driving test for the 5th time, and my mum and dad had just split up. Confessions, my mum and dad had just split up, and I just bought my first house, and I was a bit down, and my brother comes up to me and he goes, "Have you failed again, kid?" And I went, "Yeah, I failed again. I'm going to have to stop doing this. I can't afford it because I've got a mortgage to pay now." And he goes, "I tell you what, kid, do you fancy coming to Glastonbury Festival with me?" And I went, "Yeah, I'd love to." And it was such a coming-of-age experience going to the Glastonbury Festival as a 19-year-old. It had been a pretty rubbish year up until that point, and then just spending those 5 days meeting new people, wonderful people who've become lifelong friends. And the Riverboat song in particular, because Ocean Colour Scene were one of my favourite bands in the 90s. And me and my brother were walking down, if you've ever been Glastonbury, it's a massive site, and we're walking down one of the streets, and we could hear the introduction to the Riverboat song. And I said to our kid, we need to get to the front before this kicks in. So we're sprinting down this street at Glasgow, and before the end of the song, we were at the front of the crowd pretty much with these two girls on our shoulders. You've never seen my brother, obviously, but he's like 6'1" and built like a brick outhouse, and I'm quite small in comparison. He'd got this tiny girl on his shoulders, and I'd got this more buxom lady on mine, and I couldn't move for like 2 days after because my shoulders were wrecked. But one of the greatest gigs I've ever seen. It was Ocean Colour Scene at Glastonbury, and the Riverboat song was the song that I chose for the coming of age story behind it.
I love that. For that song, it always reminds me of when I had a paper round especially on a Friday, where I would do it so quick to get home to watch TFI Friday, which was the theme tune.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, amazing.
Whenever they did it live, and they just stopped, and then they just played into it again.
And I probably would have picked that for TV theme tunes, and that's what we're going to move on next. But actually, I've gone for one. With it being Christmas, I was thinking, you know, what song kind of reminds me of this era in terms of TV theme tunes? And it's actually the A-Team. And for the whole reason that, do you remember when you used to get the Argos catalogue? And me and my brother used to circle all the toys we wanted. And that was such a good thing to do. So me and my brother, I remember
Still do that now.
Well, when the A-Team came out, that's all we did. We circled every one of the A-Team action figures, and there was the A-Team van, and there was an A-Team garage as well. And I remember when we got them, you know, it was just like the best thing ever, wasn't it? You know, when you got these toys that you wished for. But every time that sort of A-Team theme tune always comes on, and there's a bit of spiel before it, isn't there? You know, talking about them and stuff.
So, which of the A-Team were you?
Yeah, I was probably the face, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Guess which one I was?
Well,
Murdoch.
I was Murdoch.
Yeah. So that was it, wasn't it? You always like, you know, had a favourite member in the A-Team as well. But whenever I hear that, it reminds me of my brother. It reminds me of Christmas, and it's happy memories of circling toys in the catalogue. Conleth, we'll come to you now, mate. So what TV theme tune?
Well, it goes back to what Nash was at your on there earlier, was about Saturday morning things like that. Champion the Wonder Horse.
Wow.
That's it. I know some of you might be thinking, what was that, whatever, but it was those kind of things. Saturday morning it was black and white shows, whatever it was. Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, like, you know, Champion the Wonder Horse, and Flash Gordon as well. I know a lot of people just thinking, what the hell?
I'm not familiar with that, Conleth. Can you just give us a rendition?
Well, actually, there was a band called, we used to go see over in Ireland, called Ghosts of American Airman, and they used to sing that song as well, Champion the Wonder Horse, and he kept it going on and on and on. Everyone went, bloody hell, like, you know, so that's it. I can do clippity-cloppity, like, you know, the horse. That's it. That's about as far as I get.
Ian, favourite TV theme tune?
Mine would be, well, it was Nasher as well. What he said it was the one that he had originally, I think, which is the Banana Splits.
Amazing.
And then obviously that was then the Dickies made a punk version of it sort of later. So it's that 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 bananas, 4 bananas make a bunch, so do many more. And I just got to hear that, and it's that Saturday TV. It's that, and then the Dickies did a fabulous version of it. I used to have that on yellow vinyl, and I've actually given it to Dean, so I think the legacy actually goes on. So I'm really pleased because he's a DJ, plays the records, and I loved that, and I loved the fact that I had it on, and it's on yellow vinyl, and all of that's it's
beautiful. And there's not many TV kids theme tunes you can pogo to as well, is there?
Exactly.
Fabulous. And you, Dan, what have you gone for, mate?
I've gone for the theme from the Crystal Maze.
Oh, fabulous! Yeah.
So just an epic piece of music, I think. I was on the way in this morning. I was listening to it again, and Crystal Maze is one of those programs that I've just always. It's like a comfort program. I used to love watching it, and it would just be on a Thursday night. And my brother would be a football trainer, so I'd have the telly to myself, and I'd just sit there watching the Crystal Maze with Tempole Tudor. But before that, oh God, his name's gone.
Richard O'Brien.
Richard O'Brien, and just so. And I watch it with my own kids. It used to be on Challenge, and sometimes watch it on YouTube with them because they love it as well. And it's just it's just one of those really, really sort of catchy theme tunes and a great program.
Brilliant. Lovely memories coming out here. And we're going to finish off with important people. And I think, you know, it's always a really nice one, but I just want to also mention what I do when I'm helping people find the soundtrack to someone's life living with dementia. I always say you have to be aware of what we call red flag songs that can, you know, make people upset. And personally, for this important people, I have a red flag song, and that's Nessun Dorma by Pavarotti. I can't actually listen to it because I get so emotional because it reminds me of my granddad. So just be aware of that if you are actually, you know, trying to find tracks for people. That obviously we want this to be a nice thing, and we don't want to upset people with sort of like sad memories and negative memories, which sadly we all have, don't we? But I'm going to focus on a good memory then. So for me, I think I'd probably have my bags packed for me by the time I got home if I didn't choose my wife for this one. When it says, think of a person who's important to you. So I've gone with Grace by Jeff Buckley. Obviously, it's a great song and it's a wonderful album, but I suppose it was the song that actually got us together, really. Her name is Grace, for anyone who's wondering. So when I met her, and first thing I said to her, your name's Grace, wow. That's actually the name of one of my favourite albums of all time. And she said, by Jeff Buckley. And I said, wow, I'm going to marry you. I couldn't believe that she knew who Jeff Buckley was. So 20 odd years later. So we're doing all right there. Every time I hear the song Grace by Jeff Buckley, it always reminds me of someone very important to me. Conleth.
Oh, me? Well, like I said, obviously, a lot of important people in my life, whatever. My eldest daughter, Anya, she was really important because, she also gave me another kick in the ass, so to speak. I'm now a father, I've got to do things, whatever. And obviously our Aaron as well, been so important. Actually, has proved me wrong so many times, which is absolutely beautiful. And then my grandkids and things like that. But obviously it's my wife, my Samantha, for all those people would not be there if it wasn't for her as well. And it is an emotional song. It's a lovely song. It's a song, Super Furry Animals, Fire in My Heart. Now, sadly, I've told these ones a story before. But whenever it comes to Super Furry Animals, obviously Griff Reese has gone solo. And it's funny, my wife and I, we were up in the Moors there at the weekend, and our song came on. One of our songs was Griff Reese, If We Were Words, We Would Rhyme, which I think is just so gorgeous. Like, you think of those things. And it's a lovely waltzy song. But this song, Fire in My Heart, it's actually quite funny because it's a lovely song. I've got a Fire in My Heart for You. And my wife actually misheard the lyrics to it once. And the line is, I've got butterfly stomach for you. And she thought it was, I have my stomach pumped out for you. She thought that was it. Now,
How romantic.
How romantic. Now, the thing is that a lot of people go, what? Like, I'm from the day of nursing whenever I have actually had to help with people, stop pumping people's stomachs out and things like this, whatever. It was horrendous. It was awful. It was awful to do, awful to see, and obviously for the patient, it was terrible. So my wife would actually go through that for me, and I just thought, isn't that gorgeous? So it's not a red flag. It's quite emotional, but it's a funny
real
emotion.
Love, real love.
I love that. Ian, have you got one?
Yeah, so mine's similar as well. I guess it's that, not the same songs, but just that my partner, we've been together just a little bit longer than 20 years. So, but when I first met her, she really loved Stevie Wonder, and particularly it was that Inner Visions. So it's that album, Inner Visions. So it's anything really from that. Living in the City, I really love. Don't Worry About a Thing, Higher Ground. So just that album, there's just something about it, and it's just, and I guess it's that, and I guess what Dean was saying about in terms of with Grace, she introduced me to a new Stevie Wonder, but I didn't know that album, and I guess that and that what Nasher said about that, the mood of a song. I mean, he's so multi-talented, isn't he, Stevie Wonder? And he's someone that you keep coming back to. I've only just got to hear that, and it's just that I'm in that time going where she lived. She'd put that record on. It was, and it was a record, so it's a double sleeved. And everything about that just brings all that back. So just that album, and I'm transfixed to that time.
Oh, beautiful! I really love that. Yeah, Dan.
Oh, well, you've all stitched me up here, haven't you? So you've all said about your wives and your partners. And
His bags are packed.
Mine's not. So I'm quickly going to have to do a little bit of that. So one of my other options, which I don't think we're going to talk about, was special moments, and I actually put in the moment that I met my wife in there. Yeah. So the song that we
Good save, Dan. Good save.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk about that quickly. Otherwise, like you say, I'll have my bags packed. So "Unbreak My Heart" by Tony Braxton was a song that we danced to when we first met. So that that's there. But for important people, this is probably because he was the first person that I probably ever saw singing live on stage, and whet my appetite for going into the music sort of. Not the music business really, but being a musician and performing live myself is my granddad Joe. So he used to sing a lot of the classics. My Way, etc. But one of the songs that he used to sing was Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I must say the Andy Williams version, not the Audrey Hepburn version, because I think he'd struggle with that. So one of my favourite films, and one of the last songs that he probably ever sung before he passed away live, and between him passing and his funeral, my auntie actually shared the footage with us of him singing this song. So it really sort of, from an emotional sense, and you said about red flag signs, but I wouldn't see it as a red flag sign for me. I'd see it as a celebration of what he did best, which was entertain and sing. And it always just, whenever I hear this song, it just gives me a warm feeling inside. A, because of the brilliant film. B, because it's just a brilliant song, but also C, because it was a song that my granddad used to sing. So it always brings lovely memories for Moon River.
Amazing. Well, we're sure to have a big man hug after this, because obviously we're all stirring up loads of different emotions here. But brilliant, boys, and I hope it's got you thinking about how to create your own playlist, and you can do this with your family as well. You know, as I say, tap into these free resources on Playlist for Life's website, and you know, this one that we've got here, this is just called Conversation Starter, and it's a really good thing to do. You know, to get your family members to talk about these happy memories, because like what Nasher said before, you know, as a celebrant, you want to celebrate the really happy memories that people have had in their lives, and the character. And for us, a lot of our character comes from it's shaped by our music and our soundtrack and our background as well. Before I finish, I just wanted to throw something in that from Conleth's misheard lyric there. I've just recently discovered that I've been singing the wrong song for many years now, and it's for years I thought Neil Diamond was singing about a reverend in blue jeans. And I remember even singing that very loud at a pub once. So yes, that's my misheard lyric. Yeah, Reverend Blue Jeans.
We all got them.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, boys. I really enjoyed that, and it's great that everyone's been sharing their memories. And I'd say the important message behind this is for Playlist for Life. So yeah, thanks so much, boys. After this short break, we're going to be joined by Nat from Merseyside Dementia Friendly Radio.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Okay, it's that part of the podcast now where we shine a light on a local service, organisation, charity or project. And we're really made up that this month we're able to focus on a friend of our podcast who, to be honest, we wouldn't be able to run this podcast without him, Nat Gavin, who is you might know as our sound guy, but Nat is also the creator of Merseyside Dementia Friendly Radio, which is a radio station which was set up by Nat, all with the aim of being dementia friendly. So Nat, welcome to our podcast as a guest.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be on this side of the mic.
Amazing.
It's a bit terrifying.
We won't grill you too much. We just want to promote, because we're all big fans of MDFR, and it'd just be nice for our listeners to get to know a little bit about it, how they can tap in, and obviously if they have a friend, family member, anyone living with dementia, how they can use it as a resource themselves. So first, tell us a little bit about it. How did it come about, MDFR?
Well, it came from, there's dementia in my family. There's been a fair bit of dementia in the family. Yeah. And it was when I was looking for a music resource for a loved one that was in final stages of dementia, that I was just looking for something that played for longer than a CD. So we tried different radio stations, and they'd all feature adverts or complicated sound design, what I've come to call sonic clutter. So whether it's people like cross-speaking, you know, a bunch of people around microphones talking at the same time, or complicated sound design and things. So didn't find anything. I've got a history in music tech and music, and an interest in niche radio. So I decided to did a little bit of research with the people I was already kind of plugged into in the local dementia community, and everyone seemed to think it was a really good idea. So went for it.
It is such an amazing idea, and it's kind of the story of the Man Hug, really, where people are needing something, it's not there, and then, you know, they're being boss and they're going out and they're creating it themselves, like you've done here. So in terms of MDFL, what's its sort of aims and objectives? You know, what's sort of like its big mission?
It's just to provide people with, so we say that it provides a reminiscence resource. That's the main thing.
Amazing.
So things that can spark memories for people. We also have self-care reminders, so just like little nudges throughout the day to eat and drink. We try to signpost people very gently with just a little guide to what's on in the local dementia community, events and groups and services and things. Reality orientation, so just what day it is and what time it is, and what time of day time it is, whether it's 6 a.m. or 6 p.m, because they can often be switched with people who have issues with memory loss.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's basically our main mission is to just make people living with dementia a bit more comfortable, and try and improve life for them in some way.
It's amazing, isn't it? And as you said, no other radio stations are kind of geared up for that. They can be quite confusing. As you said, was it sonic clutter? There was the word you used, and adverts and all kinds of things going off, and it can be quite daunting for people. And if they are kind of distressed, then you do want something that's dementia friendly. One of the directors of the station, Roy, he was going to join us today, wasn't he? But sadly he's not too well. But but Roy is someone who lives with dementia himself, isn't he? And he's someone who we're hoping to get on the podcast at a later date. But it's great that you actually have people on the board of directors that are living with dementia to give you that lived experience of what works well for them as well.
Yeah, it was really important especially to get Roy on board, because he was one of our biggest ambassadors, or he all throughout lockdown, because we launched during lockdown, so it was very difficult to get any feedback from people. I attended a few different Zoom based memory groups and meetings with people with dementia, but it was always quite difficult to get feedback regarding the station from people. So all through lockdown, most of the feedback I got from people living with dementia was from my mum and from Roy. And Roy was always extremely positive about it. My mum was a bit more critical about it, but they had very differing opinions on our nighttime programming. But Roy's been invaluable in providing that voice to us of
it is, and it's
dementia.
so important, isn't it, to have the voice of people living with dementia, to co-produce and to co-design, and the lived experience. It's just so valuable, isn't it? So going forward, I'm sure it's going to be such a valuable resource for yourself with Roy's guidance as well.
I think the key as well is a lot of the time dementia focused organisations or initiatives can often be led by people who've been carers for people with dementia. So you've often seen them at the later stages and maybe at their most vulnerable, and your kind of connection to dementia can be affected by that. So I think having people living with dementia who are still independent and still have a powerful kind of voice and opinions about things is.
So at the moment, I know that the station, it's under, there's lots going on, isn't there? That you're applying for a DAB licence, which is something that's going to happen, and they're looking for a new home and everything else. So I suppose the big selling point for us, for anyone out there, how do they sort of follow MDFR, in terms of social media and websites, for if they'd find it useful for themselves or for someone else?
Yeah, well, you can listen to us at the moment online at mdfr.co.uk. That'll take you to the main page, and the station should start playing automatically. But as you say, we're applying for a DAB license at the moment, so hopefully we'll be listenable there. We do have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They're a little bit neglected because the volunteers we had running that aren't about at the moment. But they are there. They've all got different stupid names, though, because I'm not very social media savvy. It's all either Dementia_Radio or Merseyside Dementia Friendly Radio, I think.
Brilliant. And on that note then as well, looking for volunteers, if people are interested in getting involved, how would they sort of contact yourself about that?
Definitely, yeah. We do need some volunteers in various aspects. There's a page on the website, mdfr.co.uk/get involved, I think it is. People can just message us through there, or you can email me directly at hello@mdfr.co.uk.
Oh, amazing. So if anyone is listening and they're interested, or they have a family member or friend who would be interested in helping with the production of the radio station, or aspects of social media, or pretty much anything, or the day-to-day run of a radio station, do get in touch with Nat, because it is an amazing thing, and it can help so many people, people living with dementia and carers as well. Before we had Brian Nasher from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, who gave us his soundtrack to his life, and I know Nat used to work for Playlist for Life as well, didn't you? So
I did. I was local organiser for Playlist for Life for a year. Yeah.
A local organiser. So you again know the personal value of personalised music for people living with dementia.
Yeah, definitely. It was it was through my work with MDFR that I discovered Playlist for Life. Yeah. And then it just so happened the day after I attended a session by them, the vacancies came up for a role with them.
Amazing. And it's such an incredible thing. And we will touch a bit more on Playlist for Life during our host discussion, but I thought it'd be really nice to have some of your own memories attached to some songs, so we'll have a look at some of yours. So your memory bump, so this is the one, age 10 to 30. Can you think of a song that reminds you of your youth? What are you going for with that one?
I reckon I'm going to go for 500 Miles by the Proclaimers.
Wow, I was not going to say that one for you, Nash. I had every heavy metal band in mind.
Yeah, well, I think definitely my teen years, it would have been, a lot of like heavy metal, death metal. But yeah, 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. I just thought of that while you were chatting to Nasher, actually, because it's a tune that I loved. It was the first LP that I had, which warped in the sun in my mum and dad's room. That was how I discovered you weren't supposed to leave records in the sun. But it was also, I had it on tape, and I had a boom box that you could record onto with an internal mic. And I realised a little while ago that it was my first ever bit of audio editing, was editing myself into the chorus of the Proclaimers, where I just sang one da-da-la-da, and then let it carry on. So yeah, that was the origins of editing.
That tape's worth money if you still got it.
It's probably in my dad's house somewhere. It'll
so
turn
amazing.
up one day.
So 500 Miles by the Proclaimers, fantastic, and attached to amazing memories for you. We thought we'd go on to a TV theme tune or one that reminds you of your childhood. Anything that jumps out for you there?
Yeah, it'd be the Quantum Leap theme tune, which we used to watch that every Sunday night. Yeah. While my mum would be in work, we'd tape it for her. Yeah. I mean, the theme tune's a banger anyway, but is also quite significant. Like throughout my life, I think it was my 30th birthday. My sister sent me a video of a recreation of the opening credits that her and her husband did for me. Because when we'd watch it, it would flash years, because it was time travel. It'd flash years across the screen, and it said the year of her birth 2 or 3 times and didn't flash mine. And she'd cheer for her year of birth, and then I'd get frustrated. But she made a reworking of it where it was the year of my birth, flashing across it. So it's been mega significant throughout my life.
So when you hear these songs, obviously it takes you back to these happy memories, and that's the real important thing of these personalised songs, isn't it? And that's something we'll be talking on in our sort of like segment. But one of the big things we want to do is thank you. We've been running the podcast for 9 months now, and as we said, we couldn't do it without you. You're our super sound guy,
really sound guy,
really sound guy, and as I say, we're so pleased that you're able to help us and everything that you do, and we're so thankful for that as well. And also as well, we want to wish you all the best with MDFR, and as I say, if anyone is out there listening and wants to get involved, and Nat's already give you the website, so please do. But once again, thank you so much, and I know Conleth's got something for you as well.
It's really just from all of us, just from the man hug wherever. It's just a little thing, and it's a personal thing for you. I'd like you maybe to say what the significance of it is.
It's not going to pop out at you.
Oh, what? It's a Buckfast Christmas tree.
No, I've heard of this thing called Buckfast.
Is that made out of a Buckfast bottle?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
You just tell people the significance, and people don't get it the wrong way.
The wrong way is probably. I had a passion for a drink called Buckfast. It still exists, but in my 20s, it was my favorite drink, and my band, the band I was in at the time, had a song about Buckfast for breakfast.
Buckfast for breakfast. I couldn't believe when I saw that title. So I get it. So thank you very much.
Could I also just mention in a slightly scroungy way that MDFR has a Patreon, so if anybody is in the position to do so, they can set up a monthly donation to us
And that's one of the important things, MDFR is, there's no huge amounts of funding out there, is there? And everything that Nat's been doing over the years to do this has been his sheer hard work of, raising the funds and that. So again, if anyone is out in that position who can help them, please do as well. Yeah.
Can you access that through the website as well?
Yeah, we have a donate page on our website, because obviously one of our ways of being dementia friendly is to not feature advertising, which would be the main income stream for a radio station.
Good point.
So
so let's finish one last time with the website then. What's the
mdfr.co.uk.
There you go. Nice. Once again, thanks so much, Nat.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice one, lads. Cheers.
If you or anybody else you know is struggling with their mental health, visit hubofhope.co.uk or download the app today and find local and national mental health support.
Please make sure that you follow us on Twitter. It's @TheManHug. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next month.